You know. Right. The podcast that uncovers the origin stories of some of the biggest names in sports, media, entertainment, and so much more. Nick Durst here along with Joe Calabrese. And Joe, very excited for our guest today, a fellow podcast host. And we'll talk a little bit more about that a little on later on.
Absolutely. I believe for the second time in the history of this show, we have a former NHL player on with us. He had a 10 plus year career playing in defense, played for five teams. As of this time, he actually played for both the Stanley Cup finalists for the second straight year, the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. He had a great career. As you mentioned, he transitioned. Now he works in media. He's an NHL Network analyst, and he's actually a good friend of our friend, Adnan Virk. So we'll have the opportunity to get to know him a little bit better now. We're very happy and appreciative. We welcome Jason Demers to the show. Jason, welcome. How you doing?
Fellas, great to be here. Thanks for having me. And if I knew you were close to that Adnan Virk, I would never have accepted this.
He's very, very good to us. He's helped us a lot through the years. Nick first met him when he was working in Secaucus of New Jersey. But yeah, he's very good. And I've seen some of your
Good
clips
man.
together. I've seen a bunch of your interviews and the show stuff. So again, we'll get to talking about that. But everything is great. We're very happy to have you on.
I appreciate you guys and love what you guys are doing, man. This is great. A couple former MLB Network guys, Secaucus, New Jersey. Stand up,
Exactly.
baby.
That's
Exactly. So
right.
if we were still there and we mentioned that, we'd be fired on the spot, but we're not there anymore, so it's fine. But Jason, you're a busy guy. You got a lot of business ventures, you got the podcast, you got NHL Network. So when you get up in the morning, what's the first app you're checking out on your phone?
Oof, man. Usually I'm a big X guy. You know what? I like to say Twitter, even though it was bought and it's X. I like Twitter. It's usually the first one I go to. I always enjoy looking at the news, the media. I look at a lot of stuff from the analysts and commentators, specifically for the NHL Network and NHL, just seeing what's out there, the news of the day, and then I'll typically go to Instagram. Those are my two. I don't really mess with anything else, like no TikToks, nothing like that. And then, we met on LinkedIn, which is my other favorite one. I like to connect with people through LinkedIn. But yeah, typically a morning is wake up, try not to look at my phone right away, but when I do, especially now at this time of the year in hockey, it's Twitter,
Hmm.
it's X, seeing what I missed, seeing what I can kind of add to my repertoire, what we're going to talk about on any given day that
Right.
I'm at the network or doing my podcast.
Well, something else that's a part of that morning routine, family. So how did you meet your wife?
Ah, my wife, the better half. Yeah, I met my wife in Washington, D.C. when I was with the San Jose Sharks. She's a Broadway actress and she was doing a show. She was leading a show. I got to make sure I say that right. She was leading a show and they're performing in D.C. on tour. Now it was Flashdance and I met her at a bar. I probably should not have been out at the bar, night before practice or whatever it was, but we were just blowing off some steam. And she had her, it was like a Monday night. We went to some weird bar in the middle of Washington, 18th Street Lounge. It's like in the, it's like
Hmm.
in this like three-story apartment triplex thing. And it was really cool. We went there and ended up meeting her, got her number. We didn't start dating officially till like 2 years later, and then it just kind of grew from there. And now we're married, and starting this next chapter of our lives. We've been married for like a year and a half now. But yeah, she's the talented one of the family, is what I like to say.
Happy wife, happy life. My
That's it,
co-host
baby.
Nick, he is happily married. His son soon to be 2 years old, so that's incredibly important here. You mentioned your wife's talents, so let's talk about other things that she's done, right? Her film career. We have Porno, and then we have the Netflix show The Crew with Kevin James. So talk about those opportunities. And again, considering that you think she's the talented one, how do these opportunities fall into her lap?
Oh man, I think that whole industry is crazy. I thought I had it easy in
Right.
hockey where you're either good enough to play or you're not, and it's pretty much pretty black and white. Uh, in the movie industry and the TV industry, it's a lot different. It's a lot of auditioning, a lot of political, depending on where the world is, that's kind of where they're hiring, and it's an interesting industry because, it's so subjective. So, you could be perfect for the role, but you're just not the right height, or your hair color's not the right way, or your eyes are too far apart from your head. It becomes very subjective to the point of like, and you never really know, right? So you just kind of you hear this one thing. So I credit actors in that industry because it's a hard job to do, and a lot of the time you're not working. The majority of your acting career you're not working, you're auditioning, trying to find a role, and then you get it. It lasts for 6 months to a year, and then you're back to the grind auditioning, and you're never guaranteed to be at that next level just because you got a show. She did a Netflix show, The Crew, with Kevin James, which ran for one season. It was an awesome show, and just because it was kind of right around the COVID times, and I just didn't go. They didn't go forward with it for whatever reason, and you think that this is going to go 10 seasons the way it was shot and the way the feedback that we got from it and she got from it. So
Mhm.
you're just preparing for this to go 10 seasons, and then you're back to auditioning, back on the unemployment line, and it's they just take it in stride. They're so positive the way the majority of actors that I've met, just taking that, hearing the door slam in your face and seeing it and hearing no constantly, but just to always be striving to kind of be that 1% of the 1%. So it's very commendable.
Yeah, you need to be very talented to be an actor and also have some thick skin and hopefully some money in the bank to get by the tough
Exactly.
times. So, but talent, talent is key a lot of times. And I hear you're pretty talented. I heard you're a world-class harmonica player and you're better than Bob Dylan. So, can you perhaps
That's
prove that for us?
that's an absolute lie. I'm not better than Bob Dylan. I don't have my harmonica with me here. I wish I did. But yeah, I picked it up during COVID. I started playing and I really enjoy it. It's a good relaxer and de-stressor, and it's a fun instrument. I also was like, what's gonna make me feel or sound like I'm really cool, but not
Yeah.
have me have to do so much work and effort, like carting around a guitar or a violin or a piano. And I was like, well, harmonica fits in your pocket, and you can just kind of take it and move and play it anywhere you want. So it's something that I really enjoy. Yeah, I love. I mean, Bob Dylan is one of the goats, and there's a lot of other just great harmonica players around there. But yeah, the blues and stuff like that, it's very inspirational, and it's a cool sounding instrument, I think, and it doesn't get enough love.
Yeah, I think the Sharks should have you play the harmonica on opening night next season.
Just play, yeah, just learn the national anthem and get out and play and just see if
Yeah,
I
or
make,
play them on
Yes.
TV ice.
yeah, make an ass of myself. Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, I need a lot of practice to do that, but it would be something that would be interesting to go out and do for sure.
So back all the way, you were drafted by the San Jose Sharks. You were a seventh round pick. Obviously, that did not deter you from having a good NHL career. So walk us through. And again, we've had Brian Boucher on, right? So he was a goalie, so it was a little bit of different kind of uh, development process. But walk us through what your early years were like, right? At the youth level, when did you pick up the game? How long were you down there? When did you really know that you had the opportunity to be drafted by an NHL team? And then take us all the way to draft night when you got the call from the Sharks.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's going way back. I mean, I always played hockey growing up. My dad was my coach for a long portion of my minor hockey league career up until I was about 15 years old. After 15, so at 16 when I left for junior. So he coached me for a while. He coached my brother before that, and we had some great teams. And I was never kind of the top guy in the team and top player, and I just kind of always played. I was really more interested in education and going to college and university and getting a degree and stuff like that, and being an athlete that also went to school and vice versa, and more focus on the scholastic side of things. So I started doing, we did a sport études, which is like something in Montreal where you go to school for half the day, then you play hockey. And I did that up until I was like 15 years old. And when I was 15, I played in this league that was only for 15-year-olds in Montreal. It was called Midget Espoir. I didn't want to go the midget AAA route. It was just a little bit too political for me, and having my dad be the coach for so long, I didn't love my chances. So I just kind of said I'm going to go play. My dad coached um, under Gordy Kilgallen, which was my was the head coach at that time, and we had a great team. We had a fantastic team that year. We won it all, and at that point that year, I had applied to St. Paul's prep school in New Hampshire, and I had gotten a full ride. I was ready to go. I was ready to leave. Um, and I think, the first draft before the NHL draft obviously was my junior draft in the queue. And I got a call on draft day and I wasn't even paying attention. I was, hell bent on going to school, and I toured the campus. I knew what I was taking. I knew what sports I was doing. I was ready to go. And, they called me and they said, we're going to draft you to the Moncton Wildcats. And this Joel Cote, who is the scout there, he kind of called me and said, "We really think you can make this team. Do you want to go?" And at that time, if you played junior, every year you played junior, you lost a year of eligibility to the NCAA. So which I think sucked. And so that kind of deterred me. I was like, oh, I can't go because if I go, I can't go play university. I wanted to go play, at Harvard or one of the esteemed colleges after I did prep school. So I started, mulling the idea, and I was like, well, I didn't know that NHL was even an option, and I didn't know that this was an option. Hey, you know what? I'm going to go for 2 days because they allow you a 48-hour window to go do the training camp. So I go over to Moncton and I show up and I have the first 2 days of camp and it goes really well. And I'm like, oh wow, this is pretty good. I can compete with these guys. And at that time, I'm 16. There's 20-year-olds, there's 19-year-olds there. I'm the youngest by far. So I get there and I'm with Brad Marchand at that time as well. Funny
Wow.
enough. So
Wow.
he's my other teammate. Yeah. So the goalie was Corey Crawford was there. He was 19 at that time. Who else was there? Steve Bernier was there, who was 19, 20. So there's a lot of NHL guys that were there. And I get through the 2 days and I'm ready to come home. And the coach calls me in after the second day and he says, "Hey, we think you have a chance of making this team." And I'm like, "Come on, get the fuck out of here." I'm like, "There's no way." And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I think you have a chance, but you have to make the decision if you want to stay or not." And if I decided to stay, one more day, there goes a year of eligibility at NCAA. So I called my parents and called my mom and dad and I said, "Hey, listen, they said I have the opportunity and I don't know why, but for some reason this might lead to the NHL, and if it doesn't, I can go to college in Canada and figure something out." And my mom just said, "It's your opportunity, it's your decision." I ended up staying. I made the team and then I blew my knee out, 20 games later. So I was 20 games in, blew my knee out, and I was like, what the hell did I just decide to do? And this was at 16 years old, and had to get surgery on my knee, tore my meniscus, had to rehab, only played like 25 games that year. And then from there, the next season was the season that the Moncton Wildcats were hosting the um, Memorial Cup, which is the big cup. And so that's, they were kind of spending to win, so to speak. So I was, at the bottom of the ladder. I wasn't playing. They brought in a bunch of guys that to help the team. I wasn't playing. Ended up asking for a trade. Got traded out of the chance to potentially play in the Memorial Cup because I was like, if I want any chance of making the NHL, I need to play. Ended up going to the Victoriaville Tigers and then played there for the next 3 years and didn't get drafted that year, didn't get drafted the next year, and then my 19-year-old year, um, I got invited to a the San Jose Sharks rookie tournament in Las Vegas, and they invited me out, and I said, "Yeah, I'll come." And I was undrafted, and I said, "I'll go." So I went there, ended up playing great, having like a point a game or something like that. And they sent me home after because that's right before all the guys go to training camp. And they said, "Go back, play junior, and we'll keep an eye on you." And that year, I ended up winning the D scoring title in the queue and kind of just like developed late. And, everything had kind of clicked into the same, and confidence is a hell of a thing. So, I just played confident, ended up finishing that year and didn't hear anything in the summer and had a couple teams kind of kick the tires. but didn't hear anything. And I said, well, I'm probably not getting drafted. I'm gonna go play my 20-year-old career in junior and then go to college, and that'll be it, and that'll be that. And I got a call on. So we were watching the on the old school rickety computer at our house. Me and my dad were watching for a friend of mine that was getting drafted, and we're watching. All of a sudden, we're in the seventh round, and we see Jay Demers pop up on the screen. So my dad falls out of the chair. We're like, "What the hell just happened? We just got drafted. I just got drafted in the NHL. Like what's going on right now?" And turns out it was a Julian Demers, so it wasn't Jason Demers, it was Julian Demers. So I'm like, oh God, just right, just heartbreak. Uh, but then we got a phone call like 5 minutes later, and it's the San Jose Sharks saying, "Hey, we're going to draft you in the next like three picks." So me and my dad were like, kind of, there's no way this is real. There's no way this is real. And it happened, and it was elation, and from there, just kind of, it was like a whirlwind. I ended up playing in AHL that year, played in the NHL the next year, and then played for 13 years.
Take that, Julian. So,
Take that, Julian, you son of a bitch, you.
what's like the fan base like in junior? Is it avid? Are they really into it? And
Oh
then
yeah.
from there, like, what is it like? It's got to be like kind of like ugh, when you get to the. I mean, obviously the AHL, it's the step to the AHL, but I don't think the fans care as much of the AHL, and the accommodations maybe are a little less. So just talk to us about the lifestyle of juniors and then the AHL.
Well, I mean, yeah, junior is it is there is a lot of very good fan bases. There's some places it's not as much, but I mean, Victoriaville was great. Moncton, it's like borderline a professional hockey team there in terms of you could argue that an AHL team could fit there. The fans are crazy. They're there every night. It's full. A lot of the places you go, it's hostile, and it's just funny because you got these 50-year-old people that are screaming at 16, 17-year-old kids, which just is the funniest shit ever. Because you're like, geez Louise, like I'm doing online school and you're yelling at me when you're getting off your 9 to 5 'cause your team's losing. So that was always funny, and then you get to the AHL, and the AHL is different because truly and honestly, some of the places they're more, it's feeder systems, it's a development league, and there's some of the places where the fan bases aren't great. There's no fans that are coming out, but the teams are kind of run by the NHL franchise. So you're developing, you're trying to get there, and it's just one of those weird things that you just kind of gotta you're so enamored by being in playing pro sports. You're so excited to be a part of it. You don't really think about it, but it's when you go up and play in the NHL for 5 6 years and then come back down to the AHL, that's where you're like, holy shit.
Humbling.
It's different. It's a humbling thing because it's not like it's work in the AHL and you're trying to make it, but it's gotten a lot better too. But early on, you just don't have the same luxuries you have in the NHL, but it's still great living, and it's you learning to be
How about those bus rides though?
I mean, the bus rides stink, but it is what it is. I played Bakersfield my last year. So that's what's crazy is my last year, my second to last year, I played in Bakersfield. Sorry, my last year, I played in Bakersfield for most of the year. And I mean, that was crazy compared to being in Worcester, and going from the NHL to that was very tough. But yeah, the bus rides are tough. You gotta, put the little $10 into the cup when you get to the rink to get your sandwich, your sub, or piece of pizza. And it's a little barbaric, but it's amazing that when you're young you can just perform so well on so little.
Yeah, I mean, just across all sports, the minors, like nutrition is pretty tough because, like, hey, we get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I'll get some McDonald's, a couple of slices of pizza, and sometimes that probably impacts player development for sure. But you made it. Talk to us. What do you remember about that NHL debut? What were your parents thinking, family, and what do you remember now, if anything?
I mean, it's crazy. I remember a couple plays from the game and being excited, but it was a whirlwind and I was kind of so nervous and I finished -1 against played in Colorado, and what a tough debut against that team. So I kind of just was it was a tough little opening night, but we won the game, and I kind of felt I was super excited that we won. So we won, and I was -1, and I had guys text me from the HL team, kind of razzing on me, being just like, you're on pace for -82. Hell of a job. Congratulations on a great career. And But it was amazing, to go in that locker room with Rob Blake and Joe Thornton, Patty Marlowe. It's just
Man,
legends and guys that are, borderline Hall of Famers, if not Hall of Famers, and depending on where the voting goes. But these guys were just amazing to walk into that locker room and be a part of that team that was ready to win, and that's the only goal, and that was to win in Stanley Cup. So, to come into that situation as a young kid at 21, you grow up fast, and you really learn how to be a pro quickly.
absolutely. And that team that you're around, some legendary players, had a really nice run. Has there ever been a moment for you when you're on the bench and you had to go to the bathroom? How'd you work that out?
I actually played a lot of games. I played a couple games where I had the flu and I was puking on the bench and and other things, and scored a goal in one of those games against
Wow.
Carolina. But yeah, I had a couple of those times, which I'd say worth it. I always made sure I was nervous. I'd always go use the boys' room like 10 times before I got on the ice. So I never had that urge, but I was sick a few times playing. Yeah.
Well, that's hockey players. They always fight through everything.
Tinkle question. I love it.
Let's talk about superstition. There's a lot of
Yeah.
that in the NHL. So your pre and post game rituals. Talk us through like what you're doing superstition wise, and really just walk us through a day at the rink as far as stretching, food, water from pre through post game.
I mean, I considered it more of a routine that I just had to do every little thing of my routine every single game. And I would tweak if things were going bad. And if I was on a heater, I would do the exact
Hmm.
same thing, eat the exact same food at the exact same time, get to the rink at the exact same second, and do everything. And if one little thing kind of went awry, and this was early on, I'd kind of be a mental head case. But as I got older, it shifted definitely. But the one constant for me, I always had to take a shower before I got dressed, before I
Oh
went on
wow.
the ice. So I'd do my warm up, and then I'd go take a shower and stretch in the shower, taking a hot shower, and then finishing with like a little bit of cold. And that was like kind of I need to do that before every game. I played with some guys that, Patty Marlowe is one of the craziest. He would get undressed in between every period and go take a hot tub, cold tub, before in between every period, and then get dressed. You get fully undressed, hot tub, cold tub, fully dressed again. One of the craziest mid game routines I'd ever
Man,
see.
how do you have
But
the
yeah,
time?
I don't under you've never seen a guy get dressed faster than Patty Marlowe. It's insane. It's like
But
he zips up his gear. It's crazy.
how long did he play? I mean, he's had
That's
one
the
of
secret,
those
I
Long.
guess. The hot
long,
tub,
that's
cold
the
tub.
secret, the hot tub, cold
The
tub. That's
yeah.
got to be it, right? What else could it be?
Well, he's the longest tenured. He play the most regular season games in NHL history. So
Yeah.
he got it figured out. I should have probably been following his lead, but I just couldn't get undressed that fast or dress that fast. It was
I mean,
nuts.
probably by the time you get undressed, like you gotta go back on the ice.
You
You
think
gotta
you
take
get
all
it
this
by the
stuff off. It's crazy. They
yeah.
just unlace the skates.
You got to think you have 20 minutes when they blow the whistle, and by the time you get to your locker, it's about 8:19. So you lose a minute getting back, and then you're going back. Then the coach comes in at usually between 7 to 5 minutes to talk. So you got to think he's got 12 minutes to do all of that and be dressed, and then we go on the ice at 2 minutes. So you ultimately only have 14 minutes. So do the math for the fans at home, but it's wild and just I think I don't know if there's more guys that do that in the league, but it was crazy. Yeah, but for me, it was just I'd have to shower before the game, and then I'd have to eat kind of the same at the exact same time, same second. I'd have to eat the same amount of food and everything like that. So yeah.
Well, Nick is the foodie, so I have to ask, what is your go-to pregame meal?
Well, it changed over time. I started and it was pasta. Everybody said pasta, 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 and I wondered why I felt so slow and
Yeah.
doughy for so long. And then I switched to salmon, and like sweet potato with a salad, and then I finished with steak and rice, and I just kind of with avocado and stuff. So I just kind of it evolved as I got older and as my stomach liked certain things, and you understand your body a little bit better, and you understand what fuel you need to get going, and I was always very in tune with, and still am to this day. Like when I eat certain things, and if it doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel right. Versus when I eat something, I'm like, oh, this was perfect. This is great. This is exactly what I needed, and my body's energized from it. So yeah, it was always a little bit of a game of me kind of going back and forth between what I want and what I need.
And did your post game with the food and really everything, did it vary based on win, loss, overtime,
Oh
tie?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, on the road was always pizza late in the year. You'd have pizza after the game. You try to have some steak, something like that, or in when I was younger, I'd go lighter, and I didn't really eat much steak at all when I was coming into the league versus when I finished. It flipped, and I don't know why. Taste buds changed, but I started eating a lot of fish after games, and then it turned into steak. But it does depend on after a win, a little glass of wine and some pizza, or a little beer and pizza, and just off to the races. A little dollar slice special.
Oh yeah, the best.
Well, it worked for you over time because you were pretty durable yourself. You ended up playing 700 NHL games, which is absolutely nothing to scoff at. Very early on in your career, you played for some really, really good Sharks teams. A couple of bad breaks there in the Western Conference Final, but you played with Thornton, you played with Marlowe. Eventually, you played for 5 teams. So, walk us through the business aspect of hockey, the trades, right? Feeling that your name is kind of being thrown around there, how your situation and your family situation kind of changes over time. And because you bounced around the league a couple times over the course of, like I said, 10 years at the beginning, what were some of your favorite cities to play in?
Yeah, I mean, listen, starting with kind of the business side of it is a business. You said it. It's a business at the end of the day, and the money needs to work alongside with how you're playing and how you fit into a team. And if you don't fit into that team structure or the money doesn't fit, teams have to make the tough decision, and very much, your value gets reduced to a monetary value depending on how you play and how you fit onto a team. So, in that respect, it is seem a little morbid, but I mean that is what it is. And you love hearing the stories of guys taking a hometown discount or teams giving, players these deals because they're important to the franchise. But for the most case, it's very much a business. So for me getting traded, I never had kids as well, so that helped. Me and my wife were long distance for a little bit. So for me, when I got traded and uprooted, it wasn't something that was super jarring for me. I've seen other guys, you buy a house and you have kids and they're in school and you get
Mhm.
traded. I mean, that's the ugly part of the business that you can't control. And unfortunately, it is what it is. You wish you could play on the team you were drafted by your whole career, but that's just not what happens. So, the realism of it has to kind of take effect, and you have to kind of be honest with yourself in certain moments in certain times of your career. Because if you're not, you could kind of get caught with your pants hanging around your ankles there a little bit because, things move fast, things happen fast in the NHL. It's pro sports, it's $1 billion business. It needs to move and you have to move with it. So, in terms of, and then also, playing in San Jose was amazing. And I kind of take the teams I played in as tiers in my life and moments, seasons of my life, so to speak, because in San Jose I was single and I was young and I was learning how to be a pro athlete, a man, stuff like that. So it was different. I really much enjoyed it. The fans embraced me so much, and they still are very good to me every time I go back. Even though I wasn't a highly touted guy, I played 6 years and I had a good stretch there, and our teams had a good stretch there. But they didn't owe me anything, and they've been great to me. Then I went to Dallas, was very fun. We had a good team. It was short lived. It was a year and a half, 2 years, and we had some opportunities to win, which was great. And the city embraces you, and it's one hell of a rink to play in, as everybody's watched if they watch the Stanley Cup Finals and sorry, the Stanley Cup playoffs. And then, listen, I was a free agent. I went to free agency. I had to make a decision on what I wanted to do and the value of which I was worth in my own head, and ended up getting a good deal and a deal that could set you up, and I signed with Florida for 5 years and thought it was going to be great. Bought a house, renovated the house, the townhouse while I was playing. Uh, and got traded that next year and got traded to Arizona, and things got turned upside down, and it was a crazy, crazy moment. And that's just kind of the business side of it. You think you're set, you sign a 5-year deal, you think everything's great, the team loves you, and then a year later they trade you without really, warning. So they don't let you know, and you're off to the races, and you're off to Arizona, where I played my next 4 years and ended up my career there before I ended up re-signing with Edmonton. But yeah, it's Arizona was kind of the place that I fell in love with as a city, because me and my wife really kind of created a life and a community for ourselves there, and that's where we kind of reside on in our off time is there. So, she always jokes that she wish I uh, signed in like a New York, New York, New Jersey, because she's like, if if you to sign, she's like, I've been working on Broadway all these years, and you're in the West Coast, and then as soon as you retire, and I'm not doing a Broadway show now, you're working for the network in Secaucus, and she's like, you're in New Jersey and in New York, and you're like, she's like, are you kidding me? You could have done that when we were playing, and we always joke about that because we got so comfortable, and we love Arizona, so now you kind of your life shifts with the job, so to speak.
Did you ever play as yourself in the NHL video games, and what was it like
Always.
for you?
Kidding me?
Did you
I
max your stats out to 99?
No, I just naturally was the greatest goal scorer of all time on a video game. Kidding me? Why would
Did you stay to your position, or did you move yourself around?
No, I stayed in my position. I wasn't that vain where I was like, I can be a centerman and this is my name. I was like, no, I just went, I played the right side, and I was just dynamic offensively.
Awesome. So that's obviously pretty cool, but I can't think of anything cooler other than winning the Stanley Cup than playing for your country. So you played for
Yeah.
Canada, and then you got to play again for Canada again in the Olympics. So talk to us about that awesome experience.
Man, I got to play internationally 3 times. I got to play at the World Championships, the Spangler Cup, and then the Olympics. And it was just an amazing, amazing, amazing experience for me to represent your country and your family and your last name on your back, which is, all the people that have helped you and supported you throughout your career, is just a dream come true. And, it was a crazy time when I went in Beijing, but a little disappointing and frustrating that we didn't, get to medal, and we lost out in the quarterfinals to Sweden 1-0. And lucky goal, we should have won that game, but shoulda, woulda, coulda. But just the experience as a whole, and being able to put on that maple leaf is something that is just so amazing, and so many kids want to do. And I got to win the Spengler Cup, and then I got the silver medal at World Championships. So I was able to win for my country, and it's just something that I cherish and take with me. And making those, playing with some of the best players in the world at that time on those teams, it was just a dream come true and a pinch me moment. And especially when I play World Championships, there's a lot of guys that were these superstars that were just starting out and kind of their first couple of years in the league, and just amazing to kind of play with them and see where they're at now, and see that I played with all these guys that are winning Stanley Cups now, and a couple of years after I retire. So, I'm not that old, but in terms of that, I'm a little old, and getting to see these guys develop. But yeah, the Beijing was crazy. Just the,
Wild
you know,
time.
during COVID, and how we were on lockdown, and how you can only have people from mainland China that were allowed to go to the game. And Chinese culture in terms of cheering for sporting events is a little bit different, in the jeering and the cheering and the whistling and stuff like that. So it's a little bit different, but it was an amazing experience, and was able to kind of represent myself well for my country.
So let's talk about your transition into media. Which country was the first to give you a call? Was it your native country of Canada? Was it over here? Who approached you, or who gave you the suggestion? Jason, you have some good personality. You're a good-looking guy. We think you would look good in front of a camera, maybe kind of doing a TV role or an in-studio role. We like the way you analyze the game. So, who ultimately approached you about doing that? And did your wife have any influence considering her background?
Yeah, well, my family and my wife kind of pushed, didn't push me, but kind of said, "Hey, you should maybe take a peek at this, and you'd be good at it." And I had a lot of people in the industry that were like, "You should try it out, and you can shit talk with the best of them and things like that." So I actually approached the NHL Network. I emailed Josh Bernstein and I said, and Devin Fox, who works for NBC in the Bay Area, really helped me a lot, and she sent all the emails out and said, "Hey, you should really try out for this." So I went and tried, and they brought me in for kind of a 1 day to do one or two segments in the middle of the summer, and I ended up doing the whole show, and ended up staying for the whole show. Really enjoyed it. Talked with them afterwards, and signed kind of a 2 3 year contract, and it's been really good. It's been a whirlwind. It's been a lot of work, traveling back and forth from Arizona, and the hours are interesting. It's a lot of watching hockey, and it's different when you're watching as a fan versus watching to analyze, and you look at the game a little bit differently, and you watch the game differently, and you analyze it differently, and you know, fans might see it one way, and I see it a different way because I have to kind of put on my coach GM hat as well as kind of be up to date with a lot of the news. So it's a lot of that, and because you want to do right by the fans. You don't want fans are knowledgeable. You don't want to disrespect them by not giving your all, and knowing the stats and knowing the how things work in the league and where players should go and how teams are playing. Because these fan bases are rabid, and they defend their teammates, not their teammates, sorry, they defend their players and they defend their organization. So you have to make sure that when you're coming with analyzing and commentary, it better be good, and it better be right, and it better be succinct, because fans will call you out on it and it'll call bullshit. So that's been kind of the transition for me a little bit. But yeah, my parents and my wife kind of recommended it to me, and it's been a whirlwind working for the network and then doing some stuff with the NHL YouTube digital platform, and doing a lot of different things. I just kind of said yes to a lot of different programming, and wanted to show that I'm versatile and can kind of do anything. And I can do the serious, I can do the funny, I can, balance a ball on my nose, and do all that stuff.
So talk to us about the podcast. How did that come to be? NHL Unscripted, and you're hosting with Adnan Virk. Now, did you guys start working on this podcast together first, or did you ever cross paths since the caucus first?
We never met until like episode 4 of the podcast, funny enough. And if anybody listens to the podcast on this, we have, I can say it, confidently that we have fantastic chemistry, and it was built pretty quickly on day one. And he's just such an outgoing personality, and so fun to work with, and a great host, like just an amazing he's on his stuff. His movie knowledge and his cinematography knowledge is next to none. He's incredible. But yeah, we never met until like episode 4, and we crossed paths at the MLB Network, and we were laughing our ass off. And I was like, I didn't realize I thought he was taller than he actually was, and I was like, yo, man, I thought you were
Short guy.
taller. And then
Cool.
I thought you were taller. And I was like, don't do me like that. So
Ah,
really pissed, but he's a great guy. He's a son of a bitch. He pisses me off, but I mean I love
He
working
just
with
he
him.
wastes so much money at the movie theaters. It's crazy.
It's amazing, man. He is always
Must
at
be
the
making a
movie.
lot of money from MLB Network.
I know. I'm
well,
sure
I've
he
seen the car that he drives, so he's got to be making a lot
You've
of
been in
money.
his
see
car,
that
yeah?
little white Porsche? Yeah, that little Miami.
Yeah,
I laugh my
that's
ass off.
right.
I'm like, what they paying you over here? I'm like, we don't get that money at the NHL Network, but he's great, man. He's such a good guy, and he's so fun to work with. And we've done 32 episodes now, and we get a lot of good guests. And I feel like just our banter is, if you're looking to listen and just kind of disconnect from the day and escape a little bit, we're a good option amongst 10 million other ones and
Hmm.
10 million other ones. But it's interesting finding your voice on these, and understanding what people want, and going that way, and also not being too ego driven that you can't shift in the moment. So but Adnan makes that easy for me as a host. He really he's a great colleague to have, and our whole crew, Tal Pinchevsky and Bob Bender, and at the NHL, it's they NHL didn't have to give us as much leeway as they've given us, and they kind of, if you listen to it, they kind of let us go a little bit off the rails, and
Hmm.
that's a testament to them, because they could have told us you can't. They haven't really told us you can't talk about anything. Everything's on the table, and I think that's pretty good of them because, they've been known in the past sometimes to not, and most sports leagues in general, they might support a podcast, but you're not allowed to talk about certain things. The NHL is like, hey, do your thing, and obviously within reason. You're not out here to be like, the NHL sucks, which we don't think it does. So it's all, honest answers and honest, talk back. But they give us a free reign and a lot of leash to do whatever we want, which is awesome. And it was really the only way I was going to do it. So, and me and Adnan are kind of two guys that need to let our creative juices fly a little bit.
Yeah, it's a great show. I think you guys need a YouTube channel at some point. But you've also have
We
some
do. Pushing for it, pushing for it.
so you have some really interesting guests on. Just had the Mad Dog on. Earlier in the year, you had Frank the Tank on, who was a runaway train, absolute disaster of interview. We've interviewed him before too. He's terrible. But who are some of your favorite interviews you've done so far? And give us a guest you want to get on the show at some point.
Man, and you look at like 32, I'm like, who do we have that I was like, wow, what a great, Jeremy Piven was interesting. He was funny. Not a couple hockey things, but he was like a stand-up comedy act the whole time.
Mhm.
Uh, Zach Wierenski was really cool to talk to. I thought he was very forthcoming and very open in his interview. We had Jordan Martinook early on. He was great. And then a couple other guys. I'm trying to think. When you look back, we just had. I mean, Thomas Hickey was really fun to talk to as well. He's very intelligent, and we had him on Mother's Day, and his mother passed away, and it was a very very kind of touching interview with him, and he's just a cool dude all around, and I loved working with him. And moving forward, it's like you never run out. There's always guests around, and we're getting Connor Garland on this weekend. It'd be awesome to get. Uh, it's also funny because it's like push pull. Like fans are like, well, you should get the best player. I'm like, sometimes the best player doesn't have the best personality. Like I like to interview people with great personalities and really good insight.
Mhm.
I don't want to interview a robot no matter how good you are. So for me, it's always somebody that is engaged and wants to be a part of the interview.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that Adnan hasn't gotten Martin Scorsese on with you guys yet, but maybe.
Scorsese, I know. Every time he's talked about it, but we said, nah, we don't need Martin. Wait till he's doing something better. He's retired.
I want to pick your analyst brain for a second, only because you mentioned Zach
Yeah.
Werenski. He's a finalist for the 2024-25 Norris Trophy. The Columbus Blue Jackets didn't make the playoffs, but Johnny Gaudreau, the tragedy with him and his brother at the beginning of the season. I thought of all the defensemen that I watched this season, he was the most outstanding, and he should win the award, even over Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes. What do you think?
It's hard to discount what Cale Makar did this year, though. Unfortunately, if he'd have finished a little bit stronger, they kind of fluttered at the end. I just feel like it's got to go to Cale Makar. I'm a little biased. I had him voting. I was voting for him early in the season, and then I just don't know if he had enough juice down the stretch. He went on kind of a little bit of a cold streak, and so did that team. So it's tough. I mean, Cale Makar just did insane things this year, and is changing the game up from the defensive side of the puck. So, but it's a good time right now to be a demon in the league. There's a lot of just fantastic standout guys, and Zach Werenski's one of them. And I just think, him winning the World Championships this year with the U.S. was awesome. And I think he's still got another level to get to, and I think he's getting there.
He's a very, very important component, especially for the next time that the NHL does the Four Nations face-off, which was
Olympic.
absolutely excellent. The Olympics, I think they really
Got the
captured,
Olympics in February coming up.
yep, that international crowd again. What do you think?
Oh, he's enormous piece, and that Four Nations I think put hockey firmly in the spotlight, and the Olympics will be the next test, and I think the Olympics will be even more countries involved and that weren't in Four Nations, and I think it's going to be a absolute barn burner.
Well, Jason, NBC is probably looking for some analysts for the Olympics to hockey because they don't have any more. So maybe get your agent on the horn.
I did. I think I got my name in the hat for a few of them just to do a little
There you
studio.
go.
There we
There
go.
we go.
And
Yeah. Send me
Adnan,
to Italy and get a
it
little
should
bit
be
of.
you and Adnan in the studio together because he did the last what did the Summer Olympics? No, he did the last Winter Games. He did a show
The
for
last winter
Day.
game, yes.
Yeah, so he did Olympic gold.
Good. That would be. We should go and do it. That's actually smart. I'm actually going to reach out now. Look at you. Look
Yeah,
at you
talk to Adnan. Say, listen, your guy Nick, he had a great idea. You're gonna bring your show back for the Winter Olympics, and we're gonna do it together. There we go.
I love it.
This show has a lot of we're chock full of good ideas. We always give people
No,
good
look at you guys.
suggestions, and they
No, I'm
actually
right.
listen to us. You know, I'm right. It's the name of the show. Uh, so during my heyday at NHL, I there would be times where I would have a second monitor, and I would have four games on the second monitor, and then I would have two games on my primary monitor. So at seven, I had the 4, 5, 7 games, and I had the 7:30 game, whatever it was, in Ottawa, Detroit. I don't know if you're consuming that much hockey that I did, but I think it would be great to do a former NHL defender versus fan angle for the NHL Unscripted podcast. So my suggestion is, in one of those days where you're not feeling like you want to deal with the admin and you want to
Off
grab
season.
Nick or you want to grab me and you want
You
to
You
would.
talk
selling yourself
hockey.
right now? Is this your
That's
pitch?
right. That's right.
I
Is
That's
think
this
the
your
pitch.
pitch?
Joe would, Adnan talks a lot, but he wouldn't get a word in with Joe on the
Yeah,
podcast.
send me a one page, send me a PDF deck. I want to see, give me your bullet points on what you think. And I mean, if you're willing to give me a day off and I still get paid, done. Done.
Absolutely. I love this.
Wow. And you don't tell Adnan, just
We're
Joe
cutting
pops up
deal.
on
Diamondback,
Joe
I gotta
pops up
work
on
with
the
it.
Zoom link.
He would make his
Picking.
famous Adnan. Ugh.
Yeah.
That's Adnan he likes to have his stuff set. So, but yeah, that'd be funny. I'd love
Do
it.
you bust his chops that he's a Flyers fan?
Oh, Philly fan in general. They're the worst Philly fans. Oh,
They're the worst.
just awful. Philly, New York. Can't just I mean it's the East Coast. You guys, the tough winners. You got to be tough on. You need something. You can't have bad teams if the winners are tough and you're
Yeah.
paying everybody all this money. So,
So what do you think about the Rangers? Are they gonna blow it up? They're gonna make some
oh,
major changes?
they got to bring in some D to help Adam Fox. And they fix the coaching hopefully, and hopefully there's accountability. That's what they need. They don't have enough of it.
All right. Well, you know what they really need? A captain. I mean, they've had one captain like over the last 10 years. Like just name a captain already.
I mean, JT Miller or Vincent Trocheck would be my picks probably. That'd
What
be my
about
I think
Chris
it's
Kreider if he's back?
oh.
Really?
nah, I think that
He's been
ship
the
has long
face of
gone.
the team now for 10 years.
They
Yeah,
had
I
the
know. It should have been
opportunity
earlier.
to.
Yeah.
They
They
should have
named
did it.
Truba at that time.
Done.
Yeah.
I think it'll be JT Miller, but ultimately think they won't name a captain because that's just,
That's
and I don't think there's ever been a team to win a Stanley Cup without a captain. So that just tells you something right there.
Yeah, that's overthinking it as an organization. So Derek McKenzie had it for 1 year in Florida, and then they gave it to Alexander Barkov. It's easy to give it to somebody for 1 year. It doesn't matter. Just got to put a face to the name, to the C, I guess.
It's true. So Jason, in your life, in your hockey career, in your broadcasting career, what has been your you know I'm right moment? What I mean by that, it's a time or place you want to pursue something. You ask somebody for advice. They said, Jason, don't do that. It's not going to work out for you. And you were like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. And in the end, you will see why it is that I'm right about this. And I can tell you, I told you so.
I see. I never like to tell anybody I told you so, but I feel like my whole life is me just kind of in my head saying I knew I was right, and I follow my gut no matter what. I don't. I have a good support team of people that I can go to ask for help, and ultimately though the decision ends up on my shoulders because I don't have to. You never want to be in the place to think that somebody affected your decision and then having to blame somebody or have regret because you didn't follow your own gut. So I just think it's better off just dealing with your own decisions than putting it on somebody else.
Excellent. Well said, Jason. We thank you once again. We appreciate your time. This was a lot of fun. Say hello to our friend Adnan the next time you see him.
They had
We'd
a
love to.
loofah, Tony Luffman.
Tony
The
Luffman.
Luba, Tony Toughnuts. You got to get Tony Toughnuts on. I'm gonna get Adnan to
Jason,
what?
we've asked him, he's declined multiple times for Tony.
Tony
Yeah.
I used to
Toughnuts.
work with Tony.
I know.
He,
I'm gonna
he
get him
doesn't
on.
want to be on the show, so
Once upon a time, I had a cousin. He did editing there, way back when it first started really, really blowing up, and he was very close with Tony too. And through him, we've tried to get Tony on as well, and we've gotten a couple of no's from a couple of different angles. So, I mean, I think he would listen to you, right?
He might. Yeah, Tony might. Tony, look at him. I like that. Just mysterious.
Him and there's another host over at NHL Network that was like, nope,
Shall not be named.
not gonna name him, not gonna
Well,
throw him or her under the bus right now.
oh, okay. But it's
Mostly
hey,
everybody has been great though. Seriously. That
oh, you
place is
guys,
amazing.
yeah, it's amazing. I mean, you guys are fantastic, and thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, Jason. And one last thing before we let you go. Well, we always give our guests the last word. So if there's anything else, you would like to share or personally promote yourself, where can we find you? And one more time, thank you again for doing this with us. It's always a pleasure, especially having a former NHL player on with us.
Yeah, I mean, thank you guys for having me again. Everybody can find me on Instagram and Twitter, as well as just go watch NHL Unscripted or listen to NHL Unscripted with Virk and Demers.
All right, so
And
NHL,
Demers,
NHL Unscripted. Maybe we'll be watching that soon. I know we can't. We'll all be tuning in for Joe's special guest appearance at some point over the summer when there's nothing to talk about around the NHL draft time.
I
But that's
love
going to do it here for this episode of You Know I'm Right. For our special guest Jason, my co-host Joe, I am Nick, and this has been You Know I'm Right.